Let's discuss values-based communication. But before we do, let me share a quick story to begin the discussion. Engineers at a major aerospace company were instructed to test the effects of bird strikes, notably geese, on the windshields of airliners and military jets. To simulate the effect of a goose colliding with an aircraft traveling at high speed, the test engineers built a powerful gun with which they fired dead chickens at the windshields. The simulation using the gun and the dead chickens worked so well, happily proving the suitability of the windshields, and several articles about the project appeared in the testing industry press. It so happened that another test laboratory in a different part of the world was involved in assessing bird strikes as well, in this case on the windshields and drivers' cabs of new, very high-speed trains. The train test engineers had read about the pioneering test developed by the aerospace team, and so they approached them to ask for specifications of the gun and the testing methods. The aerospace engineers duly gave them details, and the train engineers set up about building their own simulation. The simulated bird strike tests on their train windshields and cabs produced shocking results. The supposed state-of-the-art shatterproof high-speed train windshields offered little resistance to the high-speed chickens. In fact, every single windshield that was submitted for testing was smashed to pieces, along with several train cabs and much of the test booth itself. The horrified engineers were concerned that the new high-speed trains required a safety technology that was beyond their experience. So they contacted the aerospace team for advice and suggestions, sending them an extensive report of the tests and their failures. The brief reply came back from the aerospace engineers: "You need to defrost the chickens." You see, your primary responsibility as a member of any organization is not the work you do or how much you contribute to the bottom line. It's to be an effective member of the team, and the only way to do this is through effective communication. Communication is a challenge under the best of conditions, but when we add in human nature, stress, conflict, and other distractors, we create situations that make it almost impossible to communicate effectively. But effective communication is critical to the success of any organization. Communication helps us better understand a person or situation and enables us to resolve differences, build trust and respect, and create environments where creative ideas, problem-solving, affection, and caring can flourish. Here are 6 examples and ideas to communicate better. Clarify your thoughts and ideas. Examine your true purpose. Consider the environment. Build support. Follow up and follow through. And listen. But we often face barriers or roadblocks that impact our ability to effectively communicate. Have you ever been involved in a conversation and tuned out the speaker because you knew exactly what he or she was going to say? You may be doing it now. We need to be careful not to fall into the trap of hearing what we expect to hear. Instead, we need to listen for the actual message. Did you know that we speak at a rate of about 150 words per minute, but we can hear at a rate of almost 1,000 words per minute? What do we do with all this time? Too often, we spend the time formulating our response without ever really listening to the other person. Another barrier to communication is ignoring information that conflicts with what we already know, or at least what we think we know. Blocking out information or thinking we know best will limit communication and may cause harm. Good communication can come from anyone or anywhere, and good leaders recognize this and seek input from a broad audience and encourage everyone to participate. Our values have a significant impact on how we communicate. Our differing experiences and backgrounds can color our communications. We have different perceptions of the world and our environment, and this impacts how we send and receive communication. When values influence how we interact with one another, it is the difference between communication and information. Communication is the use of words, sounds, signs, or behaviors to express your ideas, your thoughts, and your feelings. Information is facts provided or learned about something or someone. Communication occurs in our organizations and our teams in many ways. One example is where team members discussing things in a distant manner, not necessarily distant in terms of location, but distant in terms of silos, expectations, secrets, and fears. When this occurs, as much is left unsaid as said. Another way communication occurs is through dialogue. This is where team members share information freely and people feel comfortable being open and honest in articulating their thoughts and ideas. Every truly successful communication occurs with the free flow of relevant information. Finally, communication occurs through the stories we tell. The stories we tell are important, as are the words we choose, the symbols we evoke, and the metaphors we draw on to tell them. Our stories, told well, define our priorities and enable us to imagine new possibilities for solutions. Finding common ground at the level of values opens us to new ideas or new ways of thinking. When we talk about our shared values, we connect with others, we find common ground, and we build consensus. In other words, when we speak of our values, we speak a common language. Values resonate in our hearts and minds, but also in our guts. They are the core of who we are and how we interact with others. But the act of stating our values clearly and consistently so that everyone can have buy-in creates authenticity. It is your responsibility to live the values in every business decision and in every interaction with each other and with your patients. But being human is unavoidable. Even in the most successful organizations, personal stress, complexity, uncertainty, and the normal dynamics of groups in power can trigger disruptions in communication. Sometimes such disruption can lead to stress and pressure, causing a minor slip into poor communication and ultimately leading to a chain reaction of misunderstanding and breakdowns in work relationships. Psychiatrist Neil Baker refers to this as reactivity, those disruptions that are not aligned with positive outcomes. When we communicate from reactivity, we tend to migrate to the extremes. On the other hand, disruption can be a positive force for change and a time when we come together under shared values to achieve a common vision. Communication can be a positive force for change. Again, Dr. Baker refers to this as creativity, those disruptions that are aligned with positive outcomes. When we communicate from creativity, we tend to balance between the extremes. So what does it look like when we communicate from reactivity? We treat discussions as contests we have to win. We push and argue for our own way and dominate the discussion. We blame others for the problems, and we go silent and withdraw when we don't get our way. Rarely are there perfect decisions. The best decisions are usually the more prudent of the logical alternatives. When you find yourself being overly persuasive and gaining support for your decision, it's usually the sign of a bad one. Conversely, what does it look like when we communicate from creativity? We assess the actions of others based on alignment with goals. We effectively balance dialogue and decisions. We address and manage conflict, and we view failures as learning opportunities. Charles Darwin stated, "It is not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Your change comes as you begin to find your balance between reactivity and creativity. This requires self-reflection and a choice to change. Communication is balancing between three main types: formal, informal, and unofficial. The formal communication channel transmits information such as goals, policies, and procedures of an organization. Examples of formal communication occur through the intranet, website, newsletters, annual reports, business plans, satisfaction surveys, and the like. Within a formal working environment, though, there's always an informal communication network. Effective communication means striking a balance between the formal and informal communication channels. Examples of informal communication occur in lunchtime conversations, quality circles, informal work teams, etc. The unofficial communication channel in an organization is the organization's grapevine. It is through the grapevine that rumors circulate. While our communication channels determine how information flows, our varying communication styles direct how we engage in communication with each other and the roles we assume when we do so. Do you know of someone that you can't seem to get through to sometimes? Or there could be many reasons for this. One of the most common reasons is that your communication style is different than the other person's communication style. One of the best ways to quickly improve the effectiveness of your communication is to adapt your style to meet theirs. We all face the challenges of communicating with people who have different style of communication than our own, especially in our organizational environments. Our natural tendency in communicating is to use our own style because it is what comes naturally and automatically to us. But if we want to be effective communicators, we need to adapt our style to that of the other person. We need to look in the mirror. Before pointing fingers and seeking a solution to any perceived communication or coping challenges, it is important to begin with a thorough self-examination. Are you certain that the source of the communication challenge or behavioral problems you experience is the other person and not you? The bottom line, you can hit a home run almost every time if you learn to alter your own preferred style to suit that of your teammates, your patients, and others you communicate with. Healthcare is both an art and a science. The art of compassionate care and social interaction must be combined with the science of human physiology and curative methods. But communication is much more of an art than a science. Let me close with another short story. A blind boy sat on the steps of a building with a hat by his feet. He held up a sign that read, "I am blind, please help." A man walking by stopped and picked up the sign and began writing on it. The boy asked, "What did you write?" "I only wrote the truth," the man said. "I said what you said, but in a different way." What he had written was, "Today is a beautiful day, and I cannot see it." You see, I think in healthcare, it is more about compassion than about almost any other thing. If there isn't at the core of healthcare two human beings who have agreed to be in a relationship where one is trying to help relieve the suffering of another, which is compassion, then what is it? But this level of compassion is only achieved if you are communicating with each other in an effective and efficient manner and with your patients in the same way.